And I'm trying here to address almost all the issues raised by the honorable members, and I shall go by issue, which would cover many members under each issue, but I'll try to name as many of them as possible. So just before I do the part where I'm responding to the honorable members, I would like to highlight some of the budgetary points, features, which is very important for us to understand where this budget fits in itself in the long path towards Viksit Bharat. Sir, this budget actually draws upon what was mentioned in the vote on account. So essentially infuses into itself everything, almost everything said in the vote on account. And after that, of course, brings a newer addition towards making this year the first step towards the next 5 years leading towards Viksit Bharat. So the continuity from the vote on account is something that I'd like to underline. The principle of governance has from 2014 been Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, and Sabka Prayas. And following that, we shall come forward and work together to make sure we overcome all the difficulties. The budget actually seeks to consolidate all the earlier accomplishments. It also outlines measures in order that we overcome the challenges, and two core elements have been highlighted. One is the social inclusivity, that is reaching out to all strata of the people in the society, and geographical inclusivity through equitable development for all the regions in our country. So we are taking a whole of nation approach and now seeking to make sure that we fulfill the aspirations of our people. So briefly, if I were to summarize on points which are meeting this objective that we have set before ourselves, is the expenditure of the government has actually grown exponentially. It is today 48.21 lakh crores. It is projected to grow by about 7.3% over 23-24 and 8.5% over pre-actuals of 23-24. We call it pre-actuals, although with the final figures are almost there, because it has to be certified and audited, we give the nomenclature pre-actuals. But they are close, actually close to the real REs. Within the total expenditure, sir, one feature which has marked India's growth story post the COVID, it is the capital expenditure which the public money with which we are building assets, meaning government's own expenditure to build assets, to build capital expenses, are the ones, capital expenditure is the one which has actually enabled us to come out of COVID, whilst many other countries in the world are doing very many different things. But yet, this one tested formula of depending on the multiplier which comes out of spending on public expenditure, spending on capital expenditure through public money, has actually yielded us such results that post-COVID, consistently we've maintained high growth rate, and we are the fastest growing in the world as a result of this very clear government's approach. And in that total expenditure of 48.21 lakh, 11.11 lakh go for capital expenditure. Sir, budgeted capital expenditure is now almost 3.3 times the capital expenditure which was there in 2019-20, that is prior to COVID, sir. If you actually calculate the effective capital expenditure, that is the sum which is referred to when the budgeted capital outlay and the grants and aid for creation of capital assets which is given to the states, grants and aid go to the state's capital account, but it remains in the revenue account for us. But because it also creates capital in the state's name, if we were to calculate the effective capital expenditure, it is pegged at 15.02 lakh or above 18% over the RE of 23-24. So that is the impetus we are giving for growth to be sustainable and for us to retain the growth rate that we have been very clearly attributing for the hard work of the people of this country. I'm not getting into the details of the revenue expenditure because that is already in the budget documents. But more importantly, I get into talking about the allocations because I think a lot of members have said probably the allocations in the social sector has come down. I want to, by giving the data, I want to showcase to the ministers, to the honorable members, that the expenditure on the contrary has gone up in each one of them, and I'll show by how many. So agriculture and allied sector in 2013 and 14 had just 30 lakh crores, meaning 0.30 lakh crores, whereas now it is 1.52 lakh crores. It is even 8,000 crores more than the last year, which is 23-24. So even over last year, we have made an increase and not brought a reduction in them. So education and employment and skilling is the next one, sir, in which 0.85 lakh crore is what was allotted for education, employment and skilling in 2013-14. Whereas today, it is 1.48 lakh crores. No one can refute this data, sir. These are all available in public domain. And the other thing which is an important indicator is, I had promised in this House, sir, 21-22, that the government would endeavor to attain fiscal deficit to GDP level below 4.5% by the year 25-26. From an unprecedented high of 9.2% in 2020-2021. We have kept completely to the trajectory projected. We have not deviated from it. We are complying by that fiscal deficit trajectory given by me. Even today, you see that we've gotten close to the 4.6. Actually, this year, we have clearly given 4.9 as the fiscal deficit. So we are keeping our word on that. India's exceptional post-pandemic economic recovery to become the fastest growing economy over the last 3 years is truly magnificent. And I thank every citizen, the middle class, the entrepreneurs, the farmers, marginal workers, traders, everyone who I've mentioned, I've not mentioned, deserve big gratitude, a word of thanks from all of us, sir. Because of their toil and hard work and belief that they have to bring up the situation for their families to be better, has resulted in India becoming the fastest growing economy. And how many nations, may I ask this year, how many nations have achieved?
Well, that was Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman there replying on the budget, answering to all the questions that are being raised by the opposition, clearly making it a point to ensure that she replies to all the questions that are being raised by the opposition on the allocations for different sectors, and also again reiterating the fact that this was a budget that is keeping in mind a Viksit Bharat by 2047, and that's exactly what she's trying to say there, that India is now on the move. India is now spending a lot more than it did earlier as well.